centers in the league that you would take over Joakim Noah? I don't think that there are. I can't name 10 centers in the league that I would have over Noah.
It's a guard-driven league. There's very few good centers in the league anymore.
Yeah, and and you can talk about how much this one kid does for that team, and Derrick Rose is fantastic, but there are just so many more pieces to that team. And Joakim Noah has become one of my favorite players. Couldn't stand him in college, but now, I don't know if he's just because he's in Chicago or just because I've got a chance to really watch his game, but I don't know if anybody works harder than that guy playing basketball.
He's a modern day, and people are going to laugh, he's a modern day Dennis Rodman when Rodman was early on in the NBA.
Yeah, I like that.
He didn't care about scoring. He wanted to play defense. He wanted to rebound. That's what Noah does now. That's all he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And wherever it took defensively, he'd do it. And that's what Noah is doing now.
Without the colorful hair and
yeah, that's why I said early Dennis Rodman.
And wedding dress.
Early, yeah. But somebody brought up adjustments, and that's what it's all about. It's all about adjustments. Miami made the necessary adjustments for Game 2, and they came out. And to me...
So how do the Bulls adjust now to make this a series? Now I think it looks lopsided almost the other way, where Miami made the adjustments with Haslam now resurging, and you have the big three. They weren't 2.5; they were the big three in the first two games, and now you go back to Miami. I mean, now the Bulls they have to adjust, and Boozer has to score more than 4 points.
Boozer needs to be a little bit more out there and aware. I think they need to play Taj Gibson more. But again, I think that you'll see Tibbs make adjustments. I think this is going to be back and forth the whole way. You're going to see one team make an adjustment, then another. I think that's why you're going to see a 7-game series now.
But for Chicago,
I think the Bulls have to win this first game in Miami.
Yeah, and I don't know if they will. I mean, it's a pretty tall order.
If they don't, I don't think it goes 7.
No. It may just go 6. I think you're right. But and I'm starting to feel heat in 6. But it's going to be tough for Chicago to make the necessary adjustments, tougher than I think it was for Miami, because if Miami's hitting on all cylinders, they're just better than the Bulls. I mean, they just are. If they're playing a perfect game, they are better than the Bulls are. And there's not much the Bulls can do to really combat that. I mean, their bread and butter was the offensive boards and being tougher down low. Well, in Game 2, Miami beat them at their own game. And if Miami can do that, then what's Chicago going to do? I mean, what could they possibly do to get them past Miami if Miami is battling with them down low? To me, that Game 2 win was more impressive than Chicago's Game 1 win. I mean, it was at Chicago. In Game 1, it seemed like the Heat took their stars out of the game at the end. It seemed they could have made it a closer game, but they were running with their bench guys, and they weren't going to win. Don't make any mistake about that. They weren't going to win, but it could have been a closer game. Game 2, remember, should have been a 13-point game if you take out Luol Deng's miracle prayer heave at the end of the second quarter, and it was domination. The Heat had that game in the bag pretty much the whole time.
Well, that's why I think it's going to be tough. I think the Bulls have to win this first game in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm still picking the Bulls in 7 if they win that first game. Otherwise, I'm going Miami in 6. Yeah, that's
okay
what it's going to have to be. 7:30 Game 3 tomorrow in Miami. Tonight, Game 3 between OKC and the Dallas Mavericks. Again, domination from the Mavs in Game 1, and then it was a pretty tight game until the end, and OKC pulled it out, and then you had the benching of Westbrook, and so there's a lot of fallout from that. Game 3, though, tonight at 8 o'clock. Where do you guys see this series going? I think it's going 7 no matter who wins this next game.
Mark and I both had Oklahoma City.
Right.
And I'm sticking with that. I think that Dallas out-basketballed Los Angeles. Neither one of those teams were going to out-athlete the other. But I think they beat them from an X's and O's standpoint, and there was nothing LA could do. Oklahoma City's a totally different team. They're going to out-athlete you. They have younger guys, quicker guys, just all-in-all better athletes. So it may not work, the same strategy for Dallas. And Dirk Nowitzki is probably not going to shoot 24 free throws every game. I mean, you wouldn't think.
I wouldn't think, but I mean, you never know. He's pretty much has the ball in his hand the whole game, it seems like.
And now he's Larry Bird. Now he's Larry Bird. Are you serious?
He made some shots in the second game that just this is like you do in horse. It's just phenomenal stuff, and I just don't see him keeping it up because I think the longer the series goes, I think you're going to see the age Dallas start to show a little bit, and then the legs are going to start to go. Whereas with OKC, they're a bunch of young bucks.
You know what? And I think that maybe putting Westbrook on the bench in the fourth quarter should be the game plan.
I think that, yeah.
He had 4 turnovers through 3 quarters up to that point.
He's got to understand in this series, he's got to take care of the basketball, and he's also got to understand that Durant is the man on the team.
You said that last week.
Yeah. I know.
And I thought he turned a corner because in Game 7, he did what he's supposed to. He almost had a triple-double, right? Or did he get a triple-double?
He did get a triple-double, yeah.
And then what happened?
What happened? He just can't stand it for too long.
Right.
Oh, God, I got to put up that shot.
Well, then write some pine.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And guess what happened? They won the game.
He's an incredible talent. I mean, there are highlights of him right now on ESPN I'm watching. This guy's unbelievably talented.
Oh, no question.
He's just young, and he's a little hot-headed. From what I've read, they know in Oklahoma City that he's got a very volatile personality. He could go off at any second, and I think that's what happened in that last game. I guess some of his teammates failed to execute a play that he called, and then he started going off on the bench and yelling at everyone, and that cost him the fourth quarter. He had to sit out, watch the fourth quarter because of his tirade.
I saw Dirk going off on Marion pretty good the other night.
You can't bench Dirk. That's
I know, but I did see that. All right, before we take our first break, I also want to touch on the NBA draft lottery. The Cleveland Cavaliers lucked out big time. They're going to get the first pick. T-Wolves get the second pick. The Jazz will get the third pick after the Darren Williams trade. And then the Cavs get the fourth pick, which is pretty huge, trying to replace LeBron James. And, rigged or not rigged.
It's not rigged.
No,
that's so
I know.
absurd.
Every year we hear that.
There's not rigging that happens in the NBA. LA's gone. Boston's gone. Both those teams were bounced out quickly and disposed of handily.
A lot of the refs that were accused of rigging games aren't there anymore.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's that's fine. But there's still not. It's not. It doesn't overtake the NBA. If there were the occasional Tim Donahue's here and there, that's not the whole NBA. It's not like the entire league is rigged because one guy has an agenda.
Okay, Cleveland has the first pick. Who do they take? Adam?
Oh, jeez.
If I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I hear everyone say Kyrie Irving. I didn't see enough of the guy.
No.
And to me, I would take Derek Williams, number one, a 6'8" athlete. And we already talked about it. It's not built on bigs anymore. There's no 7-footer in this draft that I'm excited about.
The only 7-footers are come overseas.
Right, they're all international.
No one knows
players.
anything about them.
Don't know squat about them. But I do know about Derek Williams, and he was playing real good down the stretch for Arizona, and apparently was playing with a broken wrist or whatever. So I would take him 1, and then I would come back at 4 and take Kemba Walker is what I would do for the Cavaliers, because he has proven himself, unlike Kyrie Irving, that he can take the bumps and the bruises, and he did it for more than 18 games or whatever it was at UConn and won them a national championship. He's a winner. If you want to build a squad around someone to replace LeBron James with, do it with Kemba Walker, and then have a 6'8" athlete wing guy on his right side.
And what I found interesting,
good to me.
what I found interesting was I always was under the assumption that Walker was like 5'10", 5'11". Well, I just found out they measured him barefoot. He's 6'1", so he's not the shrimp that. But I started out by thinking Irving. The more I got to thinking about the last couple of days, I got to your way of thinking on this, and I think you've got it right. I like the 1-4 call that you made there with Cleveland.
Yeah, that's just me thinking what I would do if I owned the Cavaliers.
They've got to do something.
I wouldn't buy into this Kyrie Irving kid.
They've got to do something, and I think they need to look at the Oklahoma City blueprint and kind of, listen, if Cleveland gets, and I think they're almost lucky that this isn't a draft packed with superstars, because if they were to get another LeBron James, I mean, honestly,
Yep.
As soon as his contract was up, he's going to go. I mean, that's how the NBA works now. Yeah. It's if you don't surround your stars with other players that can play basketball, they're out of town as soon as they can be.
Well, let's face it, they're not going to get a big 3 in Cleveland because they don't have the attraction there.
No, they don't.
But this is how they can do it.
And if they go Derek Williams 1, I think that is the best thing to do. I printed off a mock draft from Yahoo Sports this morning.
Yeah, I have a couple of different ones.
And it has Kyrie Irving going 1 to Cleveland, and then it has him coming back at number 4 and taking Jonas Valanciunas.
Right, that's the 6'11" guy from
Lithuania.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, there you go.
How many times?
6'11", but he's only 240 pounds.
I don't know how many times in the past. How many times in the last 20, 30 years, during an NBA draft, I hear about these guys from overseas, and about 1 out of every 20 pan out. I just no